Happy Wednesday, friends. This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. It is hump day. I've never researched this, and I say hump day all the time, like on social media or whatever, because I try and be positive about the work week and everything. But why is it called hump day? Can someone drop me a comment about that? I mean, I could Google it, especially with AI now, and I could find out in 5 seconds, but I'm lazy. So if someone could let me know in the comments, that's like a super important part of today's episode. Yeah, that'd be great. So hope everyone's having a good week. I'm obviously totally joking. It is Wednesday, and we're gonna do some Syracuse basketball today. I know we're knee deep in football season, but Syracuse basketball starts their season in like 10 days, or no, maybe it's a little more than 10 days. It was 2 week, well, almost 10 days. I don't know. My math's terrible. 2 weeks from Monday, from this past Monday, on November 3rd. They will play. Who the heck are they playing? Binghamton? I'm totally blanking on that. I think it's Binghamton. I don't know. They play someone. But the larger point here is, and they actually have a scrimmage. This I do remember. They have a scrimmage on this Saturday. They're hosting Buffalo in Buffalo, so that makes sense, right? But I think that's kind of cool. I think it's cool they're playing Buffalo, which is played them tough in the past when Nate Oates was the coach, and and I think it's cool that they're traveling. Whatever, they don't have to do everything at the Carrier Dome. Shows my age, JMA Wireless Dome. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about some different things. One thing I wanted to get your take on: do you think Syracuse is going to make the NCAA tournament this year for the first time since 2021? What do you think? Just simple yes or no. I think they're going to make it. I think that if number one is just, and this is true of any team in any sport anywhere, is to remain healthy. Their two returnees from last year, their top two players from last year, Donnie Freeman only played in 14 games due to injury. J.J. Starling missed 7 games, played in the other 26. But they only played in a handful of games together, if memory serves correct. So they got to stay healthy. And it's not just about those two dudes, but they're the guys that are going to run this team along with Nate George, the point guard transfer from Georgia Tech. But yeah, I just like this roster. I'm not saying they're going to go 26-5 in the regular season. I'm thinking 21-10, 22-9, or 20-11. 20 to 22 wins. Maybe get 2 wins in the ACC tournament for the first time ever. But I like this team. There's question marks. There's stuff. Yeah, sure. But I like this roster. And so I wanted to talk about what Adrian Autry said. And this was last week at the media day, but I'm just getting into some basketball stuff now, and it brings up a larger point. He talked about, his goal is he wants to, he expects to make the NCAA tournament every year, and not just make the tournament, but go deep in it. And so, yeah, and of course he's supposed to say that. But I guess it brings up the larger point for me. Do you think that I'm not being negative, I'm just being honest. Like, do you think if Syracuse misses the NCAA tournament this year, is Adrian Autry fired, let go? Or is it like depend on like if they just are like the next team in and they have a decent year and they just they're like or obviously if they're like way under 500 again, that's probably cause for him to get fired. But that's not why I'm bringing all this up, but I'm just curious. I think they're going to make the tournament. Some people didn't want Red as the coach in the beginning. They wanted an outsider. Some people wanted GMAC. Or, and then his first season, he wins 20 games. First time Syracuse won 20 regular season games in 10 years. 20 regular season games. They didn't make the tournament. And then last year was obviously a disaster. And people question. Listen, is Coach Autry, is he a great associate head coach at a high major and a great recruiter, but not a great head coach? That's fair. I don't know. The jury's still out for me. I mean, I think people are like a little overly harsh on him. Last year was a disaster, but I mean, stuff happens, man. Other big time programs have had bad. Now, granted, Syracuse has been down, more often than not to its usual standards since joining the ACC. That's fair, and there was a lot of things that have gone into that, in my opinion. But let's see how this year goes. But one quote he had from Media Day that I wanted to bring up, which was kind of interesting. He said, "I think Syracuse is one of the few places that no matter what, they have a little patience. They have a little bit of patience. That's what is going to pay off. I think that is what's going to make this place special with that patience because it's a different world now." And he's talking about the whole win for me now culture and guys getting fired, whether it's in, football, it can be in any sport. But, obviously football and basketball kind of run the ship in college athletics for better or worse. But yeah, guys getting fired. James Franklin got fired, Penn State football, and they went to the CFP semifinal last year. The Final Four. The Final Four. So yeah, it's a win now culture, and there's big money between NIL, third party NIL, and more recently since the start of this sports season, revenue sharing. So it's crazy. Yeah. Yep. So anyway, do I think Syracuse has a little more patience than other places? I don't know. I think that if they, again, just hypothetically, I think if Syracuse has a terrible year this year and they don't make a change, then maybe you could say that. But again, Syracuse or Autry's been there 2 years. The first year was pretty solid, and he only had primarily sophomores on his team. Last year was not good. And I think, Alex Klein being there for this past off season and NIL being better, according to what I've heard, anecdotally at least, the roster is really good. I mean, on paper, they have the two key returnees. They have a 6-member transfer class led by Nate George, but also Nate Kings, William Kyle, Tyler Betsy, who I think is going to be a sleeper on this team. Donnie Freeman even said so not too long ago at the ACC tip-off event in Charlotte. And then the prep class, Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White, both top 30 guys. Luke Fennell, a 4-star guy that played professionally in Australia. So it looks good to me. Speaking of looking good, I feel like Syracuse is going to have a really strong backcourt this year. Again, assuming everyone plays to their potential, duh. And they're healthy, duh. And this backcourt, I think, could be one of the best in the country. And it's led by the two guys that are going to be captains of this team this year, which I think is totally reasonable and logical. That's senior shooting guard J.J. Starling, who's from Baldwinsville, New York, nearby. And Nate George, the junior 4-star transfer from Georgia Tech, who was one of the best point guards in the transfer portal. He led the ACC, 6.5 assists per game last year as a sophomore at Georgia Tech. J.J. Starling's on the preseason All-ACC second team. He averaged 18 points a game last year almost. He's obviously got to improve his shooting, especially from further out. George, I've seen Nate George and Donnie Freeman both get mentioned as potential All-ACC guys too. So, if you got your two starting guards, Nate George at point guard and J.J. Starling at shooting guard, and they're both All-ACC contenders, yeah, that looks like a nice backcourt to me. But I go, look further than that. I still don't. I'll just be fascinated to see how much time Kyan Anthony, Melo's son, gets, this year. But I think he's going to be a key contributor, and it's not because he's Carmelo Anthony's son. He's a good player. And Autry has talked about how he's like crazy hardworking, and he's just one of the guys. Even though he's famous and his dad's famous and all that crap, like he's just one of the guys, and he. Obviously a lot of his reputation in high school, first at Christ the King in New York City and then at Long Island Lutheran on Long Island in New York, reputation as a 3-point shooter, but I think his game is more well-rounded than that. I think he's, according to Autry at least, because I'm not there in practice, but he's getting after on the glass. He's a good passer. He's a facilitator. He can shoot from deep, but he can also do mid-range, score 3 levels, get inside too. So, and then I think Luke Fennell could get run. Again, I know, he's a prep recruit, incoming freshman, so to speak, but he's been playing in the NBL, which is a professional league in Australia and New Zealand. So, I don't know about grad student Bryce Zafir, and Aaron Womack is more of a wing along with Nate Kings, but if you look at those two starting guards and then the two freshmen, if the two freshmen play up to their potential, that's a nice quartet of guards. could be really good. I mean, I don't care like what they're if they're the number one back. I want them to win games, but I think this backcourt could be really, 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 really good. All right, we're gonna talk about Melo for. Excuse me, we're gonna talk about Cayenne for a second. So Cayenne said recently he was talking about he's asked about the pressure of being Carmelo Anthony's son, and Carmelo, he doesn't need an introduction. He helped. It was the pivotal reason why Syracuse won the national title in 2003, but he also had a Hall of Fame NBA career, won multiple gold medals with USA basketball. At various Olympics. He was inducted in the Hall of Fame, Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame in September. So Cayenne faces pressure just because his dad's Carmelo, and he also faces pressure because he's at Syracuse where Carmelo won a chip. But, Cayenne's saying all the right things. He said, look, if I went to any other school, I'd still feel the pressure because my dad is my dad. Maybe the pressure is intensified or exacerbated or whatever you want to call it, or it's just, there's just more of it because it's Syracuse and what his dad did. But Cayenne's trying to be Cayenne. He's not, trying to be Melo. First of all, they're different types of players. He's a shooting guard. Carmelo is a forward. And I don't think Cayenne expects to average 22 and 10 like Melo did, or be a national freshman of the year, or a second team All-American as a freshman. That being said, Cayenne's got confidence in himself, and he's landed on a couple of lists in terms of, projected to be one of the best top freshmen in the ACC this year. White could also make that case. He's an excellent defender, Sadiq White. But yeah, Cayenne's, he says, look, I'm embracing the pressure. He also said recently that he's looking to potentially only be there on the Hill for 2 years. Now, I mean, it's hard to know. I mean, if he has a solid freshman year, he could go after this year based on potential NBA potential, quote unquote, or he could come. I'd love to see him come back for him and Sadiq and Donnie, shoot, and Nate George. That'd be fun. And then get Rip in here, Doron Rippy or Jordan Smith. I mean, we'll see about all that. But yeah, no, I mean, Cayenne's just I think he's going to be a good player. And he was also talking about recently how Syracuse is going to be exciting to watch this year. There's going to be a lot of dunks, a lot of highlights, good three-point shooting, up and down, up tempo, winning games. And and he said that more than once. He's like, I want to obviously score and do my thing, but I also want to win games, get Syracuse back to where it used to be. He said that multiple times. So is Sadiq White. So and we're gonna see Melo at games, and Cayenne's mom, Lala, who's she's an actress, media personality. So maybe there'll be other celebrities there with him. That'll be kind of cool, right? It's gonna be a fun year. I mean, again, I hope they win. I want it to not just be about fun. I want it to be about winning. But I think Cayenne's gonna. What do you think Cayenne? Again, we're just kind of like throwing stuff out here, but what do you think Cayenne will average this year? Like minutes, points, and then I guess either rebounds or assists or whatever. I mean, he's a guard, but he's 6'5". He could be a wing. He could be a small forward like Aaron Womack or Nate Kings. I feel like Cayenne's going to average like between 15 and 18 minutes per game. 6 to 8 points. 2 boards, 2 assists, shoot like 36.44% from deep. I'm just throwing the 4-4 out there to be funny. But no, let me know what you think. I'm curious what y'all think. All right, we're going to wrap up here with a little recruiting. Nothing definitive here. Nothing definitive from my sources or anything like that, or I've seen elsewhere. But, as the Syracuse basketball season looks to kick off pretty soon, it wouldn't surprise me if Jordan Smith Jr., the 5-star All-American from the DMV, visits Syracuse. Nothing I've heard is definitive. I'm just kind of putting this out there because it's been talked about in the past, and I have talked to people about it in the past, and I do feel like the Syracuse basketball staff has wanted to get him up there for an official visit. He's visited unofficially. That was last September of 2024. And I feel like the Syracuse staff wants to get him up there for an official visit. And there's been, kind of some of the chatter's been, oh, well, let's try and get him up actually for after the basketball season starts. Because I don't think he's signing until the regular signing period, which in basketball, the early signing period is mid-November, but the regular signing period for 26 prospects in college hoops is next April. April, yeah. So they've got time, but I don't know. I just feel like he's taken other visits recently. He's got Syracuse in his top 6. It's Syracuse, Georgetown, Indiana, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Duke. And he's visited other schools. And like I said, he's visited Syracuse. And Duke has like the analyst projection and all that. And I mean, like I said, I've said it in the past a million times. I could see him going to any of those places. Georgetown's a local team that has been recruiting him hard for a long time. Syracuse has the team takeover, and St. Paul VI. He goes to St. Paul VI Catholic High School in Northern Virginia. Autry used to be an assistant there. He played for Team Takeover in DC, where both Brendan Strawn and Autry were assistants back in the days. So Syracuse has those Team Takeover connections. That's 2. Duke is Duke. Arkansas is John Calipari. Who was the other one? Kentucky? Yeah, I think it's Kentucky. Kentucky's Kentucky. Indiana is on the up and up. We'll see with their new head coach and one of his Team Takeover colleagues, Jordan Smith, Prince Alexander Moody, who's also from the DMV, plays at Bishop McNamara in Prince George's County. He's committed there, verbally committed there. So, I can see him going to any of those places. I guess Duke is the leader. And I would say if he doesn't visit Syracuse a second time, doesn't do an official, that's probably not a good sign for Syracuse. Guys have Calvin Russell in football hasn't officially visited Syracuse yet, but he visited multiple times. And different sport and all that. And Calvin was there recently. So I don't care if it's an official or not. I just want him to get back up to the hill one more time. And so if it's going to be during basketball season, maybe it could be a little later on, but I'm kind of hearing little bits and pieces here. It might be sooner rather than later, but I don't have anything definitive, and I'm not saying he's definitely visiting. I'm not into putting out bad information, but all I'll say is just keep your eye out, and I'll obviously talk about it on Syracuse Central, and others might have stuff on it too. But just, it wouldn't surprise me if he does visit at some point. And so, he's number 2 in the class. It's kind of like with Deron Rippey. I take the field over Syracuse, but I think Syracuse has a shot with both of them. Right now in the 2026 class, I'm getting the sense that the 3 main guys they're honed in on are Smith, Rippey, and Asher Ellison, who visited not too long ago. Otherwise, Vaughn Carvella, I think they're out on him. Dakari Spear picked Texas Tech. Costanza, Madison, I don't think they're heavy. I could be wrong. And then it's potentially 2027 reclass guys. So we'll see. Clyde Walters from Overtime Elite, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I'll keep you posted on all the recruiting buzz. All right, so this is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Thanks for tuning in, friends. Drop me comments about what you like and what you don't like. And I welcome all feedback, good or bad. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, friends. I will talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday. Take care.